Yeah.
Monday.
As the thing was happening, Emily, I was like, how, I, a year, 2 years almost of like happy Mondays. I just feel good about it. That's
Yeah,
all.
I think we started like April 20 something.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Anyway, it's good to
Yeah,
see you.
it's
And
good
it's
to
good to
see
see
you.
you, the journeyers. Hi,
Wow.
journeyers.
Hi, journeyers. It's good to see your faces. Well, good for you to see our faces. Good to see your
Yeah,
names.
we like your names and faces and comments. Put them in. Put it in the chat.
Put
Whatever
your
it
name
is.
in the chat.
Put your
Put
name in the chat. Put your name in the chat. Tell us what's happening and what's going on with you, because this is our last day of the month, and it's our last day of the theme, which is reliability.
Sure is.
Reliability. And I chose like an easy one. Look at this. Ta-da!
Ooh, let's find joy in reliable things.
And Emily, the first thing that popped up was like, the sun comes up in the morning, joy.
Hooray!
But I, the more I was thinking about this, we've been talking about different ways, like to be reliable when we're reliability during change, the ways to um, understand what your values are and like see what needs to be reliable in your life depending on your values. We've talked about all those things, and I think that we haven't really sunk into the joy of things that are reliable, especially when we are in that space where we're like, oh, this thing every day, all the time, this thing, this reliable thing. But boy, howdy, is it really nice to be in a space where your things are chaotic and that thing over there is reliable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the difference between like something being reliable and something being rigid. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think there is great joy in knowing that someone or something is there for you most of the time, right? Like 90% of the time. Uh understanding that it might not be 100% and that's okay. But
Mm-hmm.
things like the sun coming up every day, uh hopefully in our lifetimes that happens
Yeah.
every day.
Every
But the time at which it comes up is different. That's a little flexible, right?
mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
Similarly, the people
You're
in your
a proper
life, like they're going to
scientist.
be there most of the time, but
Maybe, yeah.
maybe one day they got something else going on, but they're still like
Yeah.
there for you in spirit.
Even in the what was interesting, oh, even in the sun coming up every day, right? When we were on our cruise to Alaska a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we get to do
Uh-huh, so
that.
fancy. Hmm.
When we were up there, the sun would come up. You know what? I'll be honest. I don't know what time the sun came up. I was asleep, but the sun wouldn't go down until
Yeah.
like 11,
Yeah.
9, 9, 10, 10:30, 11. It wouldn't actually get black, pitch black, dark until then. And there's something, see, now we're talking about, there is something even joyful in the flexibility of things that are reliable. Like, oh, what an interesting, it was so interesting to experience that, because I've never experienced having multiple days in a day because it's so long. I would take like maybe even 2 naps.
2 naps. Living the dream.
2 naps and still have multiple hours left in the day to do things, to do
Yeah.
things. And it was interesting to have that, because it sort of frees up some imagination in your mind, like, oh man, my body really relies on the sun to do this thing so that it knows when to do its own thing. But that being said, oh, I have the power to change within me. Like, oh, I mean, I could stay up till 11, even though it's dark outside. I could stay up on my regular day and do multiple, take 2 naps and feel like I have multiple days. And I wonder where that, as we're talking about joy in reliable things, but even finding and discovering things about ourselves when those reliable things change, like there's some joy in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely exciting, right?
Yes.
It's exciting to like, I think the nice thing about reliability and the flexible of a reliable thing is that if you think about like a safety net, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you land on a safety net, it doesn't stand still. It would be a very bad safety net if that were the case, right? But because it bends a little bit when you land on it, that helps you and that saves you. Uh, and so I think likewise, when we're able to like to lean on to lean on something and it's not necessarily rigid, but maybe we are like a little bit creative in the way that we interact with that thing, or yeah, we discover something new about ourselves, like, ooh, I in this like new time where there's like 15 hours of daylight, I can do so many things.
So many things. That's, when we teach the classic zip zap zop game, and think about when we think about rigidity on top of that game, flexibility and rigidity, I'm thinking about all the ways that one can play that game with. Yes, the pattern is zip zap zop, it stays zip zap zop, or maybe it's zip zip zap zap zop zop, or maybe it's 3 of each, or maybe you go backwards, or maybe there's no pattern, like you release the pattern, but the reliability is that we will hear zip zap and zop, but there is something that teaches us, we find joy in the playfulness when someone makes a mistake or when someone adds something in, where maybe it's map mop, maybe it's brit brat brop, whatever it is. There's like, oh, a discovery of breaking the pattern or the rigidity, knowing that we can play with reliable tools, maybe, like, yeah, reliable pieces, reliable tools, and finding joy in mixing and matching those tools on stage. Ooh,
Yeah.
thanks for the thumbs up. Someone's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Well, I think about what I find interesting about that scenario with like Zip Zap Zop in particular is that when we teach like our 101s, that
Mm-hmm.
and they do have very rigid, like we are doing zip zap zop. But and I find you're right that the joy comes from when you get so used to it that you learn. Like when you learn you can break it, I think is the
Mm-hmm.
joyful part. Not just the
Yes.
breaking, but when you're like, "Oh, it's fine." It's fine
Yes.
that I can do the thing.
Yeah. And I think that connects with that idea of change inside of you. Like, oh, this is okay. The idea of like, oh, it's, what can I do with an 11-15 hour day? Like, oh, I can do this. I can break out of this. I can learn. Yeah. I'm thinking about when we understand, I'm thinking about why we play Zip Zap Zop in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Lots of reasons. One of those reasons is pattern recognition. Okay, yeah. Oh, I see this thing happen, then this thing happened, then this thing happened. For the joke or for the laugh, we can make those 3 things happen again. Pattern recognition in general. We also just listening, like receiving. Oh, thank you for this thing. My part is to give out this thing, and now your part is to receive and give out another thing. So we think about those things, but You're absolutely right. When we learn the why are we playing this game? Is it just to like our mouths just say these ridiculous words? Once we understand the why, then now we can start to discover the why for us, the why for me. Why am I playing this game? And what does it mean on stage?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm
Ooh.
definitely that game in particular, I'm the kind of person to always set myself a sneaky task. If there's no if if the person who is leading the exercise has not given like an explicit thing, or if I'm working with a bunch of people who may be a little bit more rigid,
Mhm.
uh, I always set myself a sneaky task of something. Usually it's pass it to the next person alphabetically.
And your sneaky task, when you set yourself a sneaky task, that's in your head,
Yeah.
right? You're not telling other people that thing.
No.
That's so fun because there's when I take that thought and I put it in work, our jobs or even our family lives or whatever, when we get into a space where being the reliable thing feels routine and the routine thing feels negative, whatever negative feeling that is, there is still space for the joy. There is
Yeah.
still space for the play and for the joy within it, in ourselves. We can find ways to play in the routine so that maybe no one else knows we're doing it, but like, yeah, I am only wearing red this week.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. That's the flexibility of your safety net, right? Like that you can
yes.
kind of play around with it a little bit and it's still there. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I like to say at work, I've said this a few times, that my superpower is making things fun. Uh
It's a great superpower.
uh and I do it in that way, right? In finding like those little flexible moments in something that might seem boring or routine.
Mhm.
Um or in something that just might not be interesting to someone.
Right. I'm
Mhm.
wondering how that shows up. So, yes, if you have been watching this show, which you should be all the time, you
Oh,
know that our famous Emily Arnold Fleming is a behavioral analyst. And I'm wondering how, when you're working with children, because mostly you're working with young people, and then people who are learning differently, people who are receiving information differently. And when you are in these homes, like people's homes or working with clients, how do you encounter that? Do you encounter, like, because I know that you're setting routines for most of these people, you're setting really rigid routines so that they can exist well in their lives. But do you encounter times where the routine is too rigid for them and you have to find ways for them to play, for them to be joyful and play?
yeah, I try not to make when I recommend um when I recommend consistency, I try to emphasize that it's again flexible and not rigid in
Hmm.
terms of the consistency, right? Um and so generally the ways that we play are uh sometimes in like looking at the what's important, but we can play with the how that important thing gets done, right?
Hmm.
The example I always use is like if we're potty training, right? And we are telling a kid that it's time to go to the bathroom, they're going every hour or whatever it is when we're potty training. Um, sure, that important part, that consistency of going every hour is great to like make sure that we're catching whatever's coming out of them in the toilet so that we can
Hmm.
reinforce them, make sure that we're practicing going to the toilet and all those things. That's very important to keep it consistent, but it doesn't matter how you get to the toilet. if
Right.
you're if you're at home, you can march like a dinosaur or like roll to the bathroom. I literally do not care. Uh, and so that's one of the ways that I play with it is the finding the like determining what the important part about what we're doing is, and then everything else is just playtime, is other
Hmm.
things that we can do.
That makes me think about why we do three line scenes, right?
Mhm.
Or just the idea of, look, we need to get these things out. Who are we? Where are we? What's our relationship? We need to get those things out. How we get there, up to you. It's improv.
Yeah, totally, totally whatever, right?
Right?
And yeah, and that's again, like, we even but even when you, like, really get to know scene work, you can kind of play with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of break it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, because what's important is establishing the relationship and getting on the same page with your scene partner.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get more adept at it, you don't necessarily have to be like, "Hello, Janet, here we are in the dentist office."
Yes, here we are. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I am your dentist.
It is time for a cleaning.
Yeah.
You get, like, a little bit more adept at, like, kind of like working in things, or if you really want to be playful, like, kind of like dropping hints so that you and your partner can, like, discover things
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah. It's that makes me think, I mean, obviously, of our own just lives, right?
Mhm.
As we get better and better at our lives, whatever our lives are doing at the time, we can start to play games within them, and we can
Mhm.
even start to push boundaries. Like, I for and okay, how much time do we have? Tons of time to talk
Plenty,
about my
plenty.
life.
Tell me a story.
Tons of time to talk about stories that I'm going to tell you. So, uh, yes, I one of the things that is really important to me these days is the fact that what's reliable is I live in Austin. I live
Mhm.
here. And that is important to me because before I lived in Austin, really, I lived all over the place, every 2 years moving, 2 to 3 years, just like where I was for long periods of time was not reliable. And now it is. And when you and I are talking about, like, okay, establishing reliable things. So, yes, I know that I live here and I'm going to be living here for the unforeseen future, right? We're going to be living here. And it's only like now, it's only recently that my brain and mind and soul have been like, okay, well, if this is true, what else is true? If we know we're going to live here, then we should also build community. And if we're going to build community, what does that look like? We should also maybe even build hobbies. Like, where do we like to go? What do we like to do? And if we're going to build hobbies, now we start to find who we are. Like, I'm really getting a sense, which I was talking with a friend, it's an interesting feeling to be able to think about who you are based on the fact of, like, I don't have to reinvent myself every 2 years, or I don't have to look around and think, oh, well, who's that over there? Who are the people around me? How do I acclimate to this new surrounding? I can just
Mhm.
now choose. I want to choose different things and do different things on
Mhm.
purpose.
I like that. I like that, like, there's freedom in being able to be like, "This is what I am and who I am, and now I can just kinda, like, explore
Yeah.
additional things," rather than being, like, forced into, like,
Yes.
unknown situations. I think
Yes.
that's key. Uh I realized that with work recently. I've been at my current job for 5 years, which is a long time, but there has been a pandemic in the middle of it.
Hmm.
But, like, I realized the other day, I was like, I still kind of feel like the new person sometimes. Like, I still feel like, um, you know, I've been calling it kind of like hoarding information. Like I save any like kind of things I can get my hands on a jump drive just in case.
Yes. I know that.
Uh-huh. Because I'm like, surely I won't be here long. I've been here for 5 years and I like it. I'm not
Right.
planning on going anywhere soon. Um, and so because of that, I'm able to take like a few more risks and like um I kind of joke that yeah, I'm a behavior analyst, I'm a consultant, but like my job at my company is kind of I get to play with it a lot. I get to be like, I would like to do this project. Can I? Thanks. And
Can
that
I? Thanks.
and that's been like a more recent thing in the past couple of years. I've been able to be like, I want to do that, Kay. And that's very cool. That's very
It
fun.
is.
Mhm.
There's something about, you said, oh, I get to take more risks.
Mhm.
And what an interesting, it's so interesting to think about things being reliable so that you can take more risks.
Yeah.
And when I think about that on the improv stage, I think when we have these conversations about like, oh, you can just do anything on the improv stage, it's not that. Like those risks, the you can do anything, those risks that you take come with winning the game of platform building. And platform building is just another word of saying being reliable. What's reliable in this world, right? What's
Mhm.
whatever platform, whatever world we're building, what's reliable, what's stable. And once we have some stability, now we can take these risks. The feeling of I can do anything. Yes, great. We can take these risks, but only because we really have centered ourselves. We really have built a platform, leveled out what is important in the scene, what is reliable in the scene.
Mhm.
And when I put that with your job or moving, like when those things, when pillars are unstable in your life, it's really hard to take risks.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. That's true. That I mean, speaking from, my personal life of just having a baby, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's I I'm back to basics. I'm taking, risks at work in terms of what I can do, but that's about it, right? I'm my work pillar is pretty strong.
Mhm.
And my family pillar is pretty strong. But like in terms of other things, it's hard for me right now because my life is different to take other risks, like coming back to visit you in Austin. Don't know when that's going to happen again.
Will.
I know it will. Um, and so it is hard when you don't know exactly what it would look like. You know what I mean? A
Oh.
year ago, I knew what it would look like for me to be able to come out there,
Mhm.
right? It would look like me and my husband, and we stay in a hotel and, we hang out with you and do XYZ. I have no idea what it could look like for me to come visit you now, right?
Yeah.
It's not reliable because I don't know. I don't know. We're not stable enough yet as a traveling family unit. We're very stable as in the home,
Yes. Yeah.
but
There's
I don't know what it'll look
something
like. Mhm.
about, wow, I- when we're in this like theme of finding joy and let's keep talking about it, because in the theme of finding joy in reliable things, like yes, you've got some reliable pillars, right? As far as family, that your at home family unit is stable. Where then, when you think about like, well, at some point I would like to go back to Richmond, I would like to travel, how do you, but I can't right now, how do you still find joy in those thoughts?
Um, that it's temporary is helpful, knowing that this is just a season. Um,
Hmm.
but also, I mean, I enjoy being with my family, right?
Yeah.
I really like it. it's it's fun and it's exciting and it's super fun to see this tiny human rolling around and laughing and you know, whenever I walk in the room, his head like I whenever I come home from work, my husband says that he like he like pops up. He's like, "Is that mine?"
Yes, it is.
And I enjoy all that and it's really fun. Um, and I think I'm finding like other ways to kind of release that valve of like needing to be busy and do things.
Mhm.
You know, because we're putting our energy into being fun and creative for our kid, right?
Right.
Making up songs and playing with him and all that fun stuff. So,
There's some lessons for, as we're sitting here talking about our real lives, there's really some lessons for me in hearing that, because there is a loss for me, like, oh, the travel, every 2 years, every once in a while, like going somewhere, leaving, blah, blah, blah. But even before this we started um today's show, I was telling you, I was like, I'm done. I can't
yeah,
anymore. I need to stay
tapping
home.
out. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but there is a sense of loss, like, well, that's a big part of me, this travel. It's But then listening to you talk about, well, yeah, sure, we do, in the flexibility, because things aren't rigid, in the flexibility of reliable things, right? We change. And what can we find joy in now? What can I, Shannon, like, where's the joy? Where am I finding joy? And how can I dig in to that? And when I take that and I think about it for improv, have you, I'm sure you have, because you've been doing improv long enough, but have you ever, like, you're in a scene and it's just a regular old scene, you're both doing laundry or whatever, but someone says something or something interesting happens that really just like tickles you? Like, you're like, that thing's funny for no reason.
Uh-huh.
And you dig in to that little thing, like you make the noise, whatever noise was making you laugh, or you say the phrase again and again, and within the doing laundry scene, you're delighted, you're finding joy in, like, this little, oh yeah, oh, there's that bird, oh yeah, never mind, keep, what are we talking, oh, there's the bird again. Like, but we're not really talking about the bird, we're just seeing the bird, because it's like a a reliable thing. This the laundry is the reliable thing. This bird is surprising, but it's bringing you joy, and
Mhm.
it's like keeping you grounded within the laundry scene.
Yes. I also, as you're saying that, I realize how, I don't have a poker face when it comes to something like that. If if something really tickles me during a scene, I'm instantly like,
Yeah.
"Yes."
What's happening? Did you see that? It was great. It's so good. I say, what do we say? What do we say to these journeyers who are like, right, finding joy in reliability?
Find the little thing. Find the little thing that's fun, right? Find where the flexibility is in your reliable system, because remember, it's reliable and not rigid. So find the where the flexibility is and find out why that's fun.
And find out why it's fun. Absolutely. Uh, Journeyers, this is our last reliable theme.
Yeah. Next
All
month
the
will
other themes
be
are unreliable.
next month is a mystery theme. I
It's a
don't
mystery.
It's a mystery. I used to be on top of things. I used to
And
be on top of the Airtable, and now we can reliably say that I don't know.
and it's okay, because you'll find out what the theme is next month, and whether it's reliability or not, it's going to be amazing. on and
Off the stage. Goodbye.
mwah, bye.